Hey, Watch Trading Academy, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about my first watch flip and watch trade, and I wanted to share a little bit of information behind the difference between what I originally had thought was a good way to get into watches and luxury timepieces and why that didn't work as a trade, and then how it kind of evolved into understanding how to trade watches to leverage them as assets and actually make some money. So this was back probably about 8 years ago. I was looking to get into my first big boy timepiece. At the time I had been wearing the shit like Fossil, like the stuff that I didn't really know the difference between some of the marquee brands that really hold value, like Rolex, like Audemars Piguet, like Cartier, etc., versus some of the stuff that a lot of people think is valuable because they see it in the marketing space all the time. They see it on billboards, they see it on TV, like the MVMT, like the Fossil, like the Michael Kors, which is total shit. But that's all they know, and that's all I knew. So I said, I don't really know much about luxury watches, so I'm going to do what any person does and go try to pick something up and just step up my game and wear something that actually shows that I care about what I'm wearing versus just this kind of department store Macy's bullshit. So the first watch that I actually picked up, I walked into a Tourneau, which is a big retail dealer of watches. And at the time, I was in probably my mid to early 20s. And I walked in there with about $1,500 budget. And as soon as I got into the store, it was a terrible experience. I walked in, was judged right from the get-go. I could tell that the sales representative didn't give a crap about me, was already labeling me as someone who was young, who didn't have money to spend, even though I was gonna just spend some money that day. And basically got pointed directly to the pre-owned section, which was fine. So after he kind of spent time with people who he thought were more important at the time or whatever, he came back around and showed me some of these watches. And I ended up going with a Hamilton Petite Second Railroad. So Hamilton is a brand that's an American-based brand. It's still around today. It's one of the very, very entry-level type timepieces you can have because it's an automatic movement with the rotor and it's not just a quartz piece of crap. So I looked at it and it felt nice, had a nice leather strap, had good wrist presence. And I said, sure, that one looks great. I'll definitely take it if it's in my price range. And I think it was like $1,400 at the time. And then he sold me a warranty, which I probably didn't even need, and upsold a bunch of shit. And all in, I was probably in this thing about $1,800. So I had spent a little more than I wanted, but at least I walked out of there with a watch that I thought was really cool, but didn't really get a good taste in my mouth about the experience. And what I had later learned very abruptly, which I think a lot of people learn when they're getting into the space, is how much of a conspiracy or how kind of insanely extorting this industry is. So what happened was I had worn this watch for like 6 months, and then I was like, you know what, I kind of want to upgrade or change, so I'm going to go back and trade this in. So I went back to Govberg, walked in, offered them the watch, and as soon as I walked in, they said, okay, let me check, and brought it in the back, came out and said, we'll pay you $400 for this. And I was like, shit, $400, I spent $1,800, right? So that in total is a loss of $1,400. So instead of trading the watch out, right, I ended up keeping it for sentimental reasons. But that's the loss I would have taken on this first watch because I didn't know anything about which brands held value. I didn't know what they were selling me, what types of margins they had on this. So knew that thing was going for around $1,200, but in the secondary market, when you resell it, I don't think they're anything over $600 if you're lucky. So it wasn't necessarily wrong for the dealer to offer me $400. What was messed up was I should have understood, or I wish I had understood at the time, that I could easily have gotten this watch for $400. Clean, mint, everything with it, pure condition, great timepiece, probably even a higher MSRP value, and worn it at least for free. Now, in the Watch Trading Academy, we teach you not to go for these types of marquees and brands because they don't hold value like other ones do. So again, if I had known that, I probably would have saved up an extra $100 or, whatever, $1,000 for something that would have held value. But this is the ignorance, and this is what happens a lot to folks out there or you guys who don't understand. You go out and buy something like this, you buy it at the wrong place, and then you end up losing your ass on the price, right? So with this experience, it inspired me to go learn a lot more about the watch markets. I wanted to understand, are these things assets or are they just liabilities? How can I wear these timepieces that I see other people that I respect wearing that really will elevate not only the way I present myself, but hopefully not lose my ass on this money? So with that inspiration, with that fire, I basically saved up another $1,800, same exact amount. And I was looking on the pre-owned market now. So I was looking for private sellers. I was looking for people who weren't jewelers, who weren't dealers, who I knew were going to destroy me on their profit. And I ended up finding this Rolex Datejust two-tone. If you don't know what it looks like, it's very classic. It has the Jubilee bracelet, 36 millimeter, which is nowadays probably the lowest size you want to go, especially if you're trading the watch. And it was vintage. So these are the ones from like the 1980s that still kind of look similar to the newer models, like the 41 millimeters they have today. So the design hasn't changed, and Rolex has been around forever, if not one of the highest known, best marques out in the market. So everyone knows what a Rolex is, right? So I saw this guy on Craigslist, nonetheless, which is very sketchy, and I don't suggest you do a lot of business through Craigslist, which we teach you in the Watch Trading Academy. But I found one who was a good guy. I could tell he was legit, and he was local. So I met this guy actually almost in the same public space near this Tornau outside, did the deal in cash, bought this Rolex at $1,800, right? So I wore this thing for about the same amount of time, 4 to 6 months. And when I wore it, it was amazing because it changed my entire world. Like, not only the way I felt, because I was walking out with a timepiece that was literally gold and steel, looked amazing, and I felt amazing. Like, I felt just better about myself than just wearing this Hamilton that felt a little cheaper. But the perception of who I was and who was introducing themselves to me changed as well. So I would have older guys with lots of money, or people who were dying to save up for their own Rolex, come up and say, "What do you do?" So it was a phenomenal business card, and it was a great calling card and a good opportunity to network with these people and get this respect with people not even knowing me. I mean, they knew nothing about me. I could be some schmuck for all they knew. But because I was wearing that Rolex Datejust, it was like immediately I recognized that watch, I need to talk to this person. So I got into this thing for $1,800, right? Ended up saying I was going to try to sell it private or sell it to a dealer. And I ended up walking down to one of the jewelers who are on this road when they add a lot of diamonds to timepieces, and negotiated with them. And after all was said and done on this Datejust, probably 6 months in, I ended up selling this thing to a dealer, not to a private seller or a private buyer who usually pays more, for $2,200. Right? So I basically made $400 wearing a Rolex. And this is what's fucking amazing. So once you understand how to do this and what brands carry the value and which ones make more sense, you start seeing through some of the bullshit and the conspiracy that's out there in the industry, in the market. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy who's struggling to buy something that probably isn't a great brand in the first place? I mean, they're decent, but not like fantastic. And you're going to lose $1,400? Or do you want to be the guy who literally has the same amount to invest in a timepiece and make this kind of money? I think everyone would choose this every single time. And this is a really powerful game changer. So now, like I said, I was sitting here wearing like Daytonas where I'm going to make thousands of dollars after wearing and enjoying these timepieces, instead of being this guy, this schmuck, who's like walking into a jeweler like, what can you sell me? You know what I mean? Please sell me the shit that can't move, that you have huge profit on, that I'm gonna lose my ass on, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to share with you guys the first trade and how that all went down, because my perception and the knowledge and the information that I applied was different. And this was a lot of self-discovery, self-education, and then obviously some of the content in Watch Trading Academy helped me get to this point. And from here on out, I don't think I've ever lost more than $100 on a timepiece, which is great. Like, if you knew you could not lose and only make money, you'd be wearing a lot of amazing stuff, guys. So I hope that helped you out. I look forward to seeing you again. Take care.